What up, Shinigami Kai? Shinigami here. Just finally checking back in after a couple weeks of having COVID. And I want to welcome you back to another episode of Black Belt Thoughts. As you can see, I'm wearing my new Panda Jiu-Jitsu rash guard that I got from xmartial.com. Not sponsored, but they make quality gear, and they did send me my Street Beast rash guard for free. Because they selected me as part of their like weekly or monthly giveaways they do. Great gear at a great price. Comparatively, this is almost as good as, this is actually equally as good as my Raven Fightwear rash guards that cost like $10 or $15 more than these, and a lot of other rash guards that are probably $75 to $100. So xmartial.com, stop in, get your rash guards, and even custom rash guards. They also have Street Beast rash guards, Street Beast fight trunks, and a bunch of other really cool designs other than just this badass panda, which I got thanks to Brendan Schaub nicknaming me the Street Panda. Saw it, thought it was badass looking, and had to get it. So I'm going to be talking about nerd culture, escapism, bullying, and martial arts. And I know those things all seem like they don't relate to each other, but this is kind of a section of my own personal life and a contrast between me and somebody that I know that I think is very important to talk about. Because we kind of had similar backgrounds growing up. She had it worse. Her parents were abusive in more than just violent ways. So this is about an ex of mine. I cared about her a lot, even though we hadn't met in person. It was a long-distance internet relationship. In fact, that was kind of the thing that ended it. Was I hadn't visited her yet. I was really focused on getting promoted to purple belt or blue belt, something like that. I just gotten my purple belt, and I wanted to make sure I could protect her as much as I could protect myself, and she didn't want to wait, and I was stupid and just let it go after like the third time she did that. We worked it out the first couple times. So there's background on that. So, a few years later, I had hit her up when I was single again for a little while, and turned out she had moved to California, but the reason she moved to California was because she was living with her new boyfriend, who was an abusive piece of shit with an abusive piece of shit family. So she kind of went from the frying pan into the fire. And she said she wanted to leave, and I was ready to actually go pick her up and get her out of there. But then I guess the only member of the family who was nice to her was his grandma, and she got sick and no one would take care of her, which I think that her sticking around to do that was a really stupid idea. But basically, she pushed me away and lied to me about some things to try to push me away. And I sent her an email telling her, well, I'll always be here for you if you need me. Just say the word and I'll get you out of there. She thought that I would never want to hear from her again, which was not true. About a week after I had gotten, I had accepted the fact that I'd never hear from her again last year, she hits me up on Facebook under a fake profile name, and we start talking again. We talked for a couple of weeks. And, so basically what ended up happening was she had left and ended up living on the streets in LA for a while, and ended up in one abusive relationship after another with kind of sugar daddy types just trying to survive. And eventually she got out of that cycle, got her dad put in jail for shit he did to her, and things like that. Now, what does this have to do with nerd culture and escapism and bullying and being a victim in general versus martial arts? So So I grew up in an abusive household. My mother was very, very abusive. Beat me at the drop of a hat. One time she beat me for insisting that evolution is true because I'm scientifically literate and I read a lot of books. And I read a lot more books as a kid. But basically, I started martial arts because I did not want to be a victim. And one of the things that kind of came up was that she had gotten into feminism. Before I go any further, I will say that I'm an egalitarian. And as an egalitarian who believes in actual equality and having done my research into the history and various ideologies contained in the course of feminism up into the modern era, if you value equality, you have to be an anti-feminist. It's not a false dichotomy fallacy, because anyone who does their research will know that from the white feather movement all the way up to modern feminism, where everything is, it's always been about misandry and female superiority. It's never ever been about equality. So how this relates to martial arts is that I used to I was a victim of a lot of shit myself in life, and I started martial arts so I would never be a victim again. And before I started martial arts, I used to immerse myself in video games and tons and tons and tons and hours and hours and hours and hours of anime. I used to stay up all night and all day playing video games when I wasn't working. And if I was working, I'd come home, and the first thing I'd do between when I got home and ate and went to sleep, video games or anime for hours, whatever. Because the real world was not easy to deal with, and I get it. So now she is deep into feminism and other cultural Marxist ideologies, and plays Final Fantasy 14 or whatever the MMO one is, nonstop, constantly. And feminism is the cult of victimhood. Listen and believe, and if you're a victim, you're basically a saint. So I can see why she would fall into that after everything she's been through. It almost makes it feel like your victimization is worth something more than just being a victim. But it's not. She doesn't know how to defend herself. She doesn't have a clue. We talked about it. I offered to teach her. I offered to take her with me to Japan. If I ever get to go do the Uchideshi program I want to do at the Seibukan Hanbu Dojo in Nagoya. We got into an argument about the police. And not that we weren't actually arguing about whether or not the police were a problem. We were arguing about why the police were a problem, and she called me a racist and blocked me because I was pointing out that the reason police get away with what they get away with is because, and the police attracts crappy people, is because it gives them a license to do crappy things and not face consequences. And it's not as much of a race issue as the media makes it out to be. But it's still a problem you need to take care of. But I digress. So, what happens when there's two options in life? You can either choose to stop being a victim and ensure that nobody ever victimizes you again, and learn how to defend yourself properly. Learn a couple of martial arts. I would always recommend one striking art that's street combat focused, first and foremost, something like American Kempo or Jeet Kune Do. Something along those lines. As a first degree in American Kempo, a first degree black belt in American Kempo myself, I will always first and foremost recommend that as a stand-up art for anyone interested in, real world, practical, effective self-defense versus just sport aspect stuff. And jiu-jitsu, or something that focuses on submission locks and chokes, so jiu-jitsu, catch wrestling, sambo, some kind of grappling art that's meant to enable you to disable or control an opponent without problems or with minimal difficulty. You know, so I ended up learning how to defend myself, and I have not been a victim to anything for over a decade because I can take care of myself. And I have had to use my martial arts a couple of times, and I believe I've already told those stories. Versus this ex of mine who, you know, I still care deeply about, but, you know, she would rather be a victim and hold a victim mentality and follow an ideology that glorifies being a victim than, you know, take the time and face the uncomfortable pressure of learning how to defend yourself. You know, she claimed that she has anxiety for people touching her, but you're never going to get over that if you don't learn how to stop someone from touching you or counter someone touching you, right? You know, and maybe she'll see this, maybe she'll get a hold of me again. It would be nice, you know, maybe we can get things straightened out and get her on the right path to never being a victim again. You know, and I used to kind of be into a lot of the more far left, like off the wing ideas about, you know, society and how we need to fix things. And ever since learning how to defend myself and having a more practical view of the world, you know, and getting more into things that are data-driven solutions rather than, you know, nonsensical wishful thinking in a lot of ways, things that are regressive or just not in touch with reality. You know, I moved away from all that, you know, and educated myself properly on things like feminism and cultural Marxism. And before anybody accuses me of being a right winger, I'm actually still I'm a centrist, a little left leaning centrist still. You know, because there's still more data-driven solutions on the more liberal side of things, especially economically. You know, but, and I'm not going to turn this channel into a political channel, but, you know, obviously I had to get a little political for this video. So basically what it comes down to is you either, everyone is responsible for their own safety, period. You know, some people might get in the comments talking about victim blaming or whatever. But the reality is, in the real world, you know, no matter what, not everyone's ever going to follow the rules. Okay, people are going to do things because they either have a criminal compulsion to do them because their brain is not wired properly, or something has driven them to desperation where they feel the need to do things. You know, from one extreme to another, from robbery to murder, who knows, which never justifies it. But you know, at the end of the day, you know, you have no one to rely on except yourself for your own safety. First and foremost, because you are always in the immediate center of any situation you're in, right? You know, so it's always best to learn how to defend yourself, become intent on never being a victim, and never fall into an ideology that glorifies victimhood and, you know, treats victims like some kind of saint, and just demands that all of society change to try to protect them when that's never going to be realistic. Because no matter how much you change society, rules don't matter to people who aren't going to follow rules. If they're not following the rules now, for whatever reason, they're not going to follow them when more rules are put in place. So all that being said, I deeply encourage everybody to learn martial arts. You're almost never going to find any nutso left-wing ideologues teaching that nonsense in a dojo. You're going to go to a place that, you know, teaches legitimate stuff, and they're going to spend their time teaching you how to do things that are going to save your life, not wishy-washy, feel-good nonsense, or perpetual victim mentality of, no matter what society changes, it's never good enough or whatever. Um, it's it is what it is. You need all of you, everyone out there, learn martial arts, and I guarantee you, when you do, it will change your outlook. If you think some of the things or all of the things that a lot of this cultural Marxist ideology umbrella stuff from sociology, like things that have been infiltrated in academia by cultural Marxist ideologues, sociology, a lot of the diaspora type classes, um, feminist studies, any kind of gender studies, anything pushing feminism, all that stuff is trash. You need to throw it out the window because it's not reality. It doesn't touch base with reality, and it ignores real data in order, or it manipulates data in order to misrepresent things like, the gender wage gap and all that. That's not real. It's been debunked. Um, so you can either, again, subscribe to these crazy ideologies and, perpetually be a victim forever, and you will repeatedly be a victim because you have chosen to whine and lie and whine about lies and perpetuate lies and keep yourself in a situation where you will always be susceptible to victimhood, or you can learn to never be a victim again. And that is what I encourage everyone to do. And try to keep the soy out of your diets. It's not good for you, especially if you're a dude. That's been this episode of Black Belt Thoughts. It's a little shorter than I thought it was going to come to, but I didn't really want to get into too many personal details to protect the identity of the ex I'm talking about. But it's definitely a case of, bad things happened to her and it pushed her, and instead of going in the right direction of properly learning to never be a victim again, she decided to subscribe to feminist ideology and other cultural Marxist ideas. And now we don't talk anymore because that crap kicked in. And instead of listening to facts and reality and reason, which I wasn't saying anything racist at all, just citing studies, linking studies, pointing things out. So I got blocked. And I know for a fact that she thinks pepper spray is going to save her. That's another thing, especially for you ladies. Pepper spray isn't going to help you. Most of you keep it in places where it's going to take you too long to get it out and use it if you need it. Your hands and your arms and legs and your whole body is a weapon that will always be at the ready if you teach it to be a weapon. Stuff like pepper spray is not going to help you unless you have it unlocked and in your hand at all times. And that's going to make you look paranoid. And I know you don't want to look paranoid. A lot of things can be avoided by learning how to observe your surroundings and have constant situational awareness, which is something you will learn at any legitimate martial arts school that's going to teach you proper self-defense. I don't care if it's Kempo, karate, any style of karate, jiu-jitsu. Any place that will teach you self-defense applicable stuff is always going to teach you situational awareness, which is, when you walk into a room, who's there, how many people are there, where are the exits, things that sound paranoid, but once you get used to it's a subconscious constant thing. You're not doing this. You just casually observe, take quick notes, and go about your day. And, most of the time, nothing's ever going to happen, but you'll see it coming, if it does. So, if you feel the need to carry a weapon, I recommend something more practical, like a knife. But even then, you have to think about the legal ramifications to an extent when you have to defend yourself. So it's always better to learn empty-handed self-defense techniques and utilize your own body as a weapon. Because pepper spray, I actually had a friend who was learning little bits of martial arts from me, just casually, because she wanted to learn how to defend herself a little bit. I was still a green belt or a blue belt at the time. And we went to Winco, and to illustrate a point, I pointed out that her pepper spray is clipped to her purse. Now, if I'm going to rob her, my goal is to take the purse, right? There goes the pepper spray. Or if I am seeking to harm her and I see the purse, anybody seeking to harm you is going to get rid of anything that you can use as a weapon. A purse is basically something you can use as a weapon depending on what you have in there and how heavy it is. With one quick swipe, her purse was 10 feet that way. And, you know, it's not like I did it completely out of the blue. I told her I was going to, you know, knock her purse away and show her how easy it is, because that's just not a good place to keep pepper spray if you're going to have it on you. And she liked to dress fashionably. So a lot of skirts and stuff that don't have pockets, so everything was in her purse or on her purse. Well, she learned a valuable lesson that day and realized that it's better to, I think she started clipping it to her wrist. She always had like cutesy looking pepper spray anyway. Like Hello Kitty pink case or something for it. I don't know where she got it. But you get the point. There's a false sense of safety that you get from things like pepper spray or society making up new rules to protect certain groups of people. But the reality is, even calling the cops, you're never going to have the cops show up in the minute or less it's going to take for someone to victimize you. Especially if you live in the middle of nowhere, like where I live, it takes 2 to 4 hours, sometimes more, depending on the severity of what's going on. When you call the cops, I've had friends who had to make reports about stuff being stolen or just reports about stuff. And the cops didn't show up for 8 to 24 hours after they were told 4 hours on the phone. If something serious is happening, it's going to take at least 30 to 45 minutes, if not an hour to 2 hours, you know, for them to show up to do anything. And yeah, your first and best line of defense will always be yourself. So if you don't know how to defend yourself, learn something, please. I encourage all of you, male, female, whatever, to take Kempo, take Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, take combatives Jiu-Jitsu, like Gracie combatives, you know, or go to a school that teaches Gracie combatives. You know, all the self-defense stuff should always be first and foremost. So there's that. And that's it. You know, shout out to everybody. Good luck to everybody fighting at Street Beast West Coast 10 this weekend. I hope everybody won. I'm sorry I couldn't be there. I had to pull out because of COVID. But, yeah. Links to all the other channels you need to check out down below. And Shinigami out.
Shinigami, samurai master, straight up out the land of Lancaster. No one stronger, ain't no one faster. Turning the opponents into Caspers, ghosts, disasters. We don't do no waiting, where I'm from we attack them. Swift KO kick to the chin, leave them napping. Sniff, take a whiff, that's the smell of victory. Better fear, making all my peers' careers history. Big dubs, all we catch is big dubs. Karate chops to his tops, leave them big slumped. Humble beast, beefing in the street. We don't take no loss, you gon' catch defeat. You gon' catch a